Good day, everyone, and today we will be discussing our lesson 5 in understanding the self, which is lesson 4, which is our psychological perspective of the self. Let's start the discussion with this statement. So, I am who I am. No, ako ay ako. And we usually hear this phrase. So this statement, no, if you are who you are, then who are you that makes you who you are? No? So this statement begs the question, no, if you are who you are, then who are you that makes you who you are? Na, 'di ba? Medyo lisod siya, litokon. So paano mo nasabi na ikaw ay ikaw, no? And if you are who you are, anong parte ng pagkatao mo, no, ng behavior mo, ng personality mo, ang bumubuo ng sarili mo? So, what makes you who you are? So, self is the sense of personal identity and of who we are as individuals. No? So, dito pumapasok ang concept ng self, no? At as I said from the previous lessons, no, the definition of the self changes. No, iba't iba ang definition ng self, no? Iba yung definition ng philosophical, ng sociological, ng anthropological, and dito sa psychological na perspective of the self. So in 2014, no, Jangani and Tari so define the self, no, and according sa kanila, no, self is not the self is not the sense of personal identity and of who we are as individuals. So under psychological perspective, now we will discuss 7 psychologists. So first we have William James and his concept of self. Next we have David Lester. Third one we have Donald Winnicott, Carl Rogers, with his self theory. And fifth, we have Sigmund Freud. Sixth, we have Albert Bandura. And seventh, our last psychologist will be talking about Carl Jung. Okay, so first we have William James. So William James, is the father of American psychology. And in 1890, he distinguished two understanding of the self. No, so we already tackled the I self, no. So according to William James, no, there are two concepts of the self, no, which is the self as I, no, and the self as me. And he called this the concept of the self. So ano nga ba yung pinagkaiba ng I self at ng me self? So let's start with the I self. So ano yung I self? So I self, no, is the metaphysics, or basically it's concerned with the existence of the self. No, the I self, no, refers to the self that knows he or she is. No, alam mo kung sino ka. No, this is the thinking, acting, and feeling self. Okay? And everything in your mind is the I self. Okay, and it reflects the soul of a person, or what is now thought of as the mind, and is called the pure ego. No, so that's the I self. And ano yung pinagkaiba nito sa me self? The me self naman is the experience of the self. It's empirical. No, it's the empirical self. It's about describing the person's personal experiences and is divided to further categories na tulad ng material self, social self, and spiritual self. Kasi dito, we are concerned about the experience. So, ano ulit yung difference na between the I self and the me self? No, sa ganitong difference. So sa I self, no, we are concerned about the existence no of the self. No, it involves the thinking and feeling. On the other hand, no, yung me self no is concerned about the experience of the self. No, this is the empirical. No, so yun yung pinagkaiba ng I self at ng me self ni William James. So, according to William James, no, a man's self is the sum total of all that he can call his. Not only his body and his psychic powers, but his clothes and his house. So, bakit nasabi ni William James yon? So, balikan natin yung lesson, no, yung discussion natin kanina. No, sabi niya, yung self daw can be divided into two. 'Di ba? So kasama na 'yun, kasama na doon yung psychic powers no na tinutukoy niya dito, no, it is the existence no or what we call the I self. And of course, no, yung clothes and his house, no, which would be the example of the me self, no, which is about experience, no, included na ang material self. So the next psychologist, no, is a British American psychologist, and he was a professor emeritus psychology no at Stockton University. So he is David Lester. So sabi ni David Lester, important no sa pag intindi ng sarili mo is maintindihan mo muna yung concept ng multiple versus unified self. So sabi ni Lester, the construction of multiple selves varies across different roles and relationships. So ano nga ba ang multiple selves? So multiple selves no is it is basically no your multiple identities. Okay, paano 'yun, no? Ano 'yun? No, for example, no, ako si Carisha, no, Carisha as a student sa masters and Carisha no as a teacher, no, as a daughter, as a sibling. So may iba't iba akong identity ng self. No, kasi we show different behaviors and attitudes when we are with friends, no, when we are with our family, no, and that is my multiple self, no. And for you, no, students, no, usually nandun kayo sa adolescent na stage, and at this stage, no, papasok dito yung identity crisis, no. Ano ba yung gusto mo talaga? No? At yun ang nagiging problem kasi no, tinatry mo pa lang na i-build yung sarili mo, no, yung concept mo ng self, no, pero dahil ang dami mo ngang self-identity is no nalilito ka, no hirapan kang buuin. And dahil dyan, no, you have multiple selves. No, nagiging problema siya because no you have coping no with different selves constitutes a formidable task among adolescents, no, kasi minsan kailangan mong mag-prioritize, no, sino ka ba talaga, no, gusto mo ba talagang maging musician or gusto mo lang talagang kumanta, no, pero napipilitan kang maggitara kasi ini-expect ng mga friends mo na magaling ka din maggitara since magaling kang kumanta, no, or gusto mo ba talagang maging basketball na player? Or, no, baka mas gusto mo lang talaga yung naglalaro ng basketball, no? So, you are in the time, no, na you are trying to identify sino ka ba talaga. And sabi dito, these challenges contribute heavily to the young person and struggle for a unified self. And at the end of the day, no, ang goal naman natin, no, is for you to have a unified self, no? And our third psychologist, no, is Donald Winnicott. So si Donald Winnicott, no, ay isang English pediatrician and psychoanalysis. So sabi niya, no, the true self or the self no is composed of the true and the false self. No? So kanina, multiple and unified self. So now naman we have the true and false self. So the function of the false self is to hide and protect the true self. Okay, so the false self no and the true self no ex, self-explanatory na rin siya. 'Di ba? Kung ano yung totoong self and yung false self mo. So why do we try to hide and protect our true self? No, 'di ba may mga chances no, may mga experiences tayo na minsan na malungkot tayo, no, pero nagpapanggap tayo na masaya because ayaw natin na malaman ng iba, no, ayaw natin na malaman nila yung pinagdadaanan natin. No, because sometimes no we fear na baka i-judge nila tayo o kaya no we might think na baka iiwasan nila tayo. There are cases na kung saan no, we pretend to be someone else so that we can be included in the group. No, kaya minsan ganun yung nangyayari. Now we create a false self to hide our true self. Now in a way this is also related to our discussion. So ito yung false self natin, no? Ito yung social identity natin. So ito yung pinapakita natin sa tao. No, and yung true self natin is usually tinatago natin. No, or in some cases, pinapakita lang natin sa mga taong pinagkakatiwalaan natin. No, we are only honest no to the people that we respect or the people that we trust. People tend to display a false self no to impress others. So gaya nga ng sabi ko kanina, 'di ba, sometimes we pretend to be someone else. So we could belong to a group no kahit hindi ka naman kung kahit wala ka namang pera no dahil ang mga kasama mo ay laging nagmi-milk tea no makiki-milk tea ka rin every day no kahit ang totoo last money mo na yan sa allowance mo. So we try to impress people and this is not easy. No, okay? It's not easy to pretend to be someone else. No, it's not easy to pretend that you're okay. No, it's not easy to pretend that you're doing fine. So of course, no, ideally it's better no if you show your true self. Pero Winnicott added that the self can change depending on situations. So, have you ever experienced hiding your true self? Yes, why or why not? Okay, so for those no who viewed this video, kindly comment down no in the comment section if you experience no hiding your true self and why. So this will um, serve as your recitation points. Okay. So our fourth psychologist is Carl Rogers. And si Carl Rogers, he is considered to be one of the founding fathers of psychotherapy research. So he proposed no the concept of the self theory, no? So anong meron kay Carl Rogers? So according sa kanya, no, ang mga tao daw ay natural na mababait. So he believed in the inherent goodness of people. He also emphasized the importance of free will and psychological growth, suggested that the actualizing tendency is the driving force behind human behavior. So human beings are always striving for self-fulfillment or self-actualization. When the needs of the self are denied, severe anxiety may result. So, pag may gusto ka, tapos di mo nakuha, it may result daw to anxiety. No, 'di ba? May gusto kang grade, no, na makuha. pero di mo makuha, no? Because hindi ka naman nag-aral, no? Hindi ka naman nag-comply ng requirements, then magkakaroon ka ng anxiety. And also, no, Carl Rogers proposed the self-concept. So, ano nga ba yung self-concept? So, self-concept, no, it refers to the image of oneself. Define the self as a flexible and changing perception of personal identity. Self develops from interactions with significant people and self-awareness. No? And it makes sense no kung iisipin mo na kasi dinidevelop natin yung sense of self natin no when we interact with other people, no? Ay, yung anak day ko. No, yung anak day ko wala ko bantay na yung anak day ako ang actions. No? So, yung anak. So, those are included sa factors on how we perceive ourselves. And according to Carl Rogers, no, there are three components of the self-concept. So, yung una no, is the self-image, no, or how you see yourself. No? Paano mo vina-value yung sarili mo? No? How do you see yourself? No? So, sometimes, yung self-image natin is a bit inflated. No? Minsan, sobrang bongga ng perception natin sa sarili natin. No? Minsan, feeling natin, ang ganda-ganda natin, or ang kaya, ang galing-galing natin. No? Which, in some cases naman, no, meron namang sobrang negative naman yung self-image natin. No? Feeling natin, no, ang pangit natin, feeling natin, hindi natin kaya, no? So, ang second component naman of the self-concept is the self-esteem or how much you value yourself. So, maraming factors no ang makaka-affect sa self-esteem, no, including how we compare ourselves to other people. No? So, sino dito yung mahilig mag-compare sa sarili natin? Ma'am, si ano kasi mas magaling sa math. Ako, hindi man ako magaling sa math. Pero magaling ako sa English. No? So, ganon. No? And how others respond to us, kung paano sila mag-react sa atin. No? When people respond to us positively, no, usually we develop a positive self-esteem. No? And on the other hand, when we compare others, no, when we compare ourselves to others and we find ourselves lacking, no, kulang tayo, no, mas lamang yung other party, so it can have a negative impact on our self-esteem. No? So, for example, no, pag mapapansin ka ng kaibigan mo, tapos sasabihin sa'yo, gwapahan ni mo, uy, gwapa lagi kay kakaroon, blooming lagi ka. No? So, parang magkakaroon siya ng effect sa kanyang aura, no? Sa kanyang mood, no? Sa kanyang araw, no? On her behavior. And on the other hand, no, pag kinumpare naman natin yung sarili natin sa iba, tapos feeling natin, mako-compare natin yung beauty, may pa siya taas og pilok, no, may pa siya mas tangkad pa siya kaysa sa ako, may pa siya cute, 'di ba? Okay, so nagkakaroon siya ng negative na effect on our self-esteem. So next we have is our ideal self. No? So yung ideal self natin, so ito yung mga gusto natin. No, from the term itself, ideal self, no, how you wish you could be. No, ano ba ang gusto mo? May it be 5 years or 10 years from now, gusto ko ganito, gusto ko maging ganyan, no. Syempre yung ideal self natin, no, is affected by our self-image and our self-esteem. So, according to Carl Rogers, the curious paradox is that when I accept myself just as I am, then I can change. So, come to think of it, no? No, oo nga naman, no? Pero, bakit, no, kung kailan tanggap ko na yung sarili natin, no, alam na natin yung strengths and weaknesses natin, then, dyan pa tayo pwede magbago. no? Kasi nga, no, you know your strength, already know your weaknesses. And therefore, no, kaya mong i-address yung weaknesses mo. At kaya mo pang i-strengthen, no, ang mga strength mo. So that's what Carl Rogers meant, no, about his statement, no? The curious paradox is that when I accept myself just as I am, then I can change. So our fifth psychologist, no, is also one of the most popular psychologists. So he is Sigmund Freud. And ang focus ng work niya is more of the importance, no, of the unconscious. So the mind is like an iceberg. No, it floats, no, with 1/7 of its bulk above water. So ang mind daw natin, no, ang conscious lang dito is around 1/7, no, and most part ng mind natin is composed of our unconscious state of mind. So Freud identified three structures of personality, no, so the id, ego, and superego. So si id, no, so ito ang childlike, no, gusto ng id na makuha agad yung gusto niya, no, so this is the pleasure principle, no, I want it and I want it now, no, it is the pleasure principle. While si ego naman, no, it works in the reality principle, no, so parang sasabihin ni ego na wait lang, no, pag nag-demand si id ng gusto ko ng ganito, then si ego will respond, wait lang. No, pag-isipan natin, we need to have a little bit of planning. So si ego ang reality principle. So si super ego naman, ito naman yung moral principle natin. No, siya yung nagsasabi na bawal 'yan, no, hindi mo dapat pwede gawin 'yan. No, kumbaga if we give an example, no, parang an image, no, to imagine is si id yung para siyang demon, yung demonyo na bumubulong sa atin, gawin mo yan, sige kainin mo yan, wala namang nakatingin. Ayan. Tapos si super ego yung angel na bumubulong sa atin na pag kinain mo yan, no, magagalit yung tindera kasi hindi ka nagbayad, no? Siya yung nagbibigay ng conscience sa atin, konsensya. No, while si ego, siya yung gitna, no? Siya yung nagde-decide whether yung susunurin niya is yung id or yung super ego. Okay? So take note with the id, ego, and super ego. So if you look, no, at the image, no, yan yung sinasabi ko kanina. No, si id, no, sasabihin niya, I want it, and I want it now. No, ngayon naman, si super ego, sasabihin niya, no, you can't have that. No, it's not right. No, it's not the right thing to do. Hindi tama yan. No, pero si ego, no, si ego yung magsasabi, siya yung magde-decide na, sige, wait lang, pagplanuhan natin yan. No, siya yung parang naging middleman between our id and our super ego. And kasama din under kay Freud, no, ang psychosexual stages, no, and according to Freud, no, the first stage, no, is the oral stage, so birth to 1 year, no, sa pagsilang niya hanggang sa 1 year, and ang erogenous zone niya is nasa mouth, no. So pansin niyo yung mga bata, no, yung fixation ng mga babies, ng mga infant to 1 year old is focus on the mouth. 'Di ba? Pansin niyo yung mga babies, thumb suck and yung breastfeed. No? So their erogenous zone is nasa mouth nila. No? It's the oral stage. And the next stage after that is the anal stage. No? Kung saan ang erogenous zone is nasa bowel and bladder control. So ito yung time na nagto-toilet training na yung mga bata, no? No, pina-practice na ng mga magulang na mag-toilet training, no? Pinipilit ng mga parents na kailan mag-CR, no? Dapat sa CR na, no? Hindi na dapat mag-diaper. And this happens to 1 year old to 3 years old. And the third one is the phallic stage, no, which happens to 3 years old to 6 years old. No, kung saan yung erogenous zone natin is nasa genitals natin. No? And this is the time no, na kung saan naku-curious tayo sa ating body parts, no? Specifically sa ating genitals. And the fourth one is the latent stage. So this is 6 years old to puberty. So inactive ang libido natin kasi we are focused on a lot of things. No? So dito sa stage na to, usually this stage no 6 years old to puberty is madami tayong ginagawa. No? Nagiging active tayo sa mga extracurricular activities sa school. No? We learn sports, dancing, cheer dance. So, nagiging latent yung libido natin. Hindi siya active. No? And lastly, we have the genital stage, no? Which is puberty hanggang sa late na natin na stage. No? Hanggang puberty hanggang sa death na, no? Sa genital stage. So, this stage, no, is kung saan, no, nagmamature na tayo sa ating sexual na interest. So, again, there are 5 psychosexual stages: the oral, anal, phallic, latent, and the genital stage. And yung ego, no, they develop during the oral stage. Since, no, pinanganak tayo, meron na tayong ego. No, because this is composed of our needs. Ano yung mga gusto natin, ano yung kailangan natin, 'di ba? Kaya 'di ba mapapansin nyo na yung ego, no, I want it and I want it now, 'di ba? So since bata pa tayo, no, 'di ba mapapansin nyo ganun talaga, no? If example, no, if nagutom yung baby, no, pag nagutom yung baby, no, wala siyang pakialam kung kakatulog lang ng mama niya, no? Basta kung gutom siya, kailangan kumain siya. No, because no, that's where the stage no the ego develops, no. It starts from birth. While yung superego naman no develops no it is more of yung social expectations natin. No, ina-absorb natin, and syempre we have to learn those expectations first. No, kaya nade-develop siya during the phallic stage. Now, let's proceed to the psychological defense mechanisms. So, ano to? Ano yung mga defense mechanisms? So, according to Freud, no, these are strategies, no, kung mapapansin nyo, that we use unconsciously to protect ourselves from anxiety, no, arising from unacceptable thoughts or feelings. No, so for example, no, may nangyari na hindi natin matanggap, or may mga events or may mga pangyayari that causes anxiety or trauma. So our mind works amazing ways, different ways for us to avoid such situations. Okay, so um, this is our psychological defense mechanisms. So, una, no, is denial. Refusal to recognize a threatening situation. So, may mga bagay na hindi natin matanggap. No, at yung gagawin natin, ang gagawin ng brain natin is itatanggi natin siya. We will deny it. No, actually this is very common. No, kung for example, kung mawawalan tayo ng mahal natin sa buhay. Oh, sorry. So, merong period kung minsan sasabihin natin na oh, it's not happening, no? Parang hindi totoo, parang hindi ako makapaniwala. No? Because last kita namin is malakas pa siya. No? Things like that. No? So, that person is experiencing denial. Okay, so the next mechanism, defense mechanism, is called repression. So, repression, sabi dito, pushing threatening situations out of conscious memory. No? So, an example of this would be mga traumatic na experiences. No, example yung mga tao na na-rape, mga rape victims, especially at a young age. No, na-rape at a young age, tapos when they grow old, they don't have a recollection, no, na nangyari sa kanila na they were actually raped, no, when they were a child. No, kasi sa sobrang traumatic ng experience na yon, no, that your mind actually repress that experience. Tinanggal niya na, no, yung conscious memory niya, nilagay niya sa unconscious part of your mind. Okay, so that is repression or quote unquote forgetting, no? So next defense mechanism, we have rationalization. So we make up acceptable excuses for unacceptable behavior. No, halimbawa, no, dati magjo-jogging ka, no, tapos after mong mag-jogging is kakain ka ng madami. Sasabihin mo sa sarili mo, o sige, okay lang naman kumain ng cake, kumain ng samgyup kasi nag-jogging naman ako kanina, 'di ba? So, you rationalize things, no, para maging acceptable siya. No, kahit alam mo sa sarili mo na, na hindi naman talaga dapat. Okay, so we have denial, repression, rationalization as our first three psychological defense mechanisms. So the next two defense mechanisms that we will discuss, no, are projection and reaction formation. So ano yung focus muna tayo sa projection. So ano yung projection? So placing one's own unacceptable thoughts onto others. So for example, no, projection. So for example, um, galit ka sa isang tao, no? Pero sasabihin mo, galit siguro siya sa akin. No, pero where in fact ikaw talaga ang may galit sa tao na 'yon. No, prino-project mo yung feeling mo sa ibang tao. Okay? Another example, no, cheating. No, kunyari you are cheating sa iyong partner. Nag-cheat ka. No, pero ang sasabihin mo sa kanya, no, pakiramdam ko nag-cheat ka sa akin. No, but in reality, you're the one cheating. No, pino-project mo lang yung behavior mo sa kanya. No, yung unacceptable thoughts mo dun sa boyfriend mo or sa girlfriend mo. So that's projection. So the next one, we have reaction formation. So ano naman itong reaction formation? So condemn something that has an unconscious appeal. So something na feeling mo na hindi tatanggapin ng ibang tao. So example, no, sasabihin mo, ay grabe talaga ang mga naninigarilyo na yan. No, masama yan sa kanilang health, no? Pero in reality naninigarilyo ka din. But you form a reaction na feeling mo na mas acceptable for other people. No, kahit hindi talaga yun yung reaction mo or yung opinion mo. So next we have displacement. No, and in displacement, you transfer emotions or behavior to another less threatening. So for example, no, nag-away kayo ng boyfriend or girlfriend mo. No, nag-away kayo tapos ang gagawin mo sa sobrang inis mo sa girlfriend or boyfriend mo, susuntukin mo ang pader. So bakit ka sa pader naglalabas ng sama ng loob mo? Eh wala namang ginawa sa'yo yung pader. So that's displacement. No, kasi feeling mo yung pader hindi makakalaban sa'yo. No, you transfer your emotions to less threatening na mga objects or mga tao. So another example, no, sa work mo, pinagalitan ka ng boss mo sa work mo and syempre hindi ka react, hindi ka makasagot sa boss mo kasi boss mo, 'di ba? Siya yung nagbibigay ng nagsasweldo sa iyo, nagbibigay ng sahod. No, so ang gagawin mo, no, pag-uwi mo sa bahay, no, inaway mo, hindi mo napansin na inaaway mo yung kapatid mo, no, inaaway mo yung nanay mo. No, parang nilalabas mo yung sama ng loob mo, yung inis mo sa boss mo towards your family because they are less threatening compared to your boss. Okay, so that is displacement. So next, now we have regression. So falling back on childlike patterns as a way of coping with stressful situation. So yung most common example ng regression no is yung mga bata no na nagkakaroon ng baby brother. No? So if napapansin nyo yung mga kakilala nyo no na eldest tapos nagkaroon sila ng baby brother or sister. So feeling nila no di na sila yung bunso. So dahil na-threaten sila na hindi na sila yung binibigyan ng attention no nasa bunso na nasa baby, no ang gagawin nila no, they will fall back into their childlike patterns. No magpapa-baby ulit sila, no mag-baby talk sila, no? So i-assure nila yung sarili nila na sila pa rin yung baby, no? Or they are threatened by the new baby sa family nila. So that's regression, falling back on childlike patterns, no, as their way of coping with stressful situations. And the last three that we have no, are identification, compensation, and sublimation. So you try to become someone else, no, to deal with one's anxiety. So that's identification. So usually, nangyayari ito with high school students. Siyempre, you want to belong. No? Siyempre, ayaw mo ma-exclude sa group, 'di ba? Sa high school ka pa. So, you try to be someone else, no? To belong, para mabilong ka sa group, no? Kahit hindi ka girly, no? Boyish ka, pero you try to be girly para mabilong ka sa group nila. So, you try to identify with the group. That's identification. So, next we have compensation. So, trying to make up for areas in which a lack is perceived by becoming superior in some area. So, syempre, no, hindi naman tayo magaling sa lahat ng bagay. Some of us may be good in academics. Yung iba sa inyo magaling sa sports. No, yung iba magaling sa performing arts. No? So, ang gagawin mo sa compensation, no, for example, you are not good academically. No, sa compensation, so you will try to focus and exceed on the things na kung saan ka talaga magaling. No, for example, sports. So kung hindi ka magaling sa academics, so you will excel, no, you will try to exceed doon sa sports. No, yun yung compensation, you try to compensate sa feeling mo na kulang ka, no, by focusing on another thing na kung saan magaling ka. Okay. And lastly, we have sublimation. No, is probably sublimation. No, it is probably something that is interesting for me. So turning, ano yung sublimation? Turning socially unacceptable urges into socially acceptable behavior. So bakit siya interesting for me? So in sublimation, so what happens here? For example, no, gusto mong manakit ng tao, no? Naggalit na galit na, parang urge, no? Parang meron kang urge na gusto mong manapak. Pero, alam mo na hindi siya acceptable na behavior. So, ano yung gagawin mo? No? So, ang gagawin mo ay sasali ka or magpa-participate ka sa boxing or sa karatedo na sports. Why? No? Kasi dun, no, boxing or yung panununtok is normal. No? Panunungtok is acceptable. No? So, ginagawa mo ang unacceptable urges mo, ginagawa mo siya acceptable, pero syempre, within a different context. Okay? You turn socially unacceptable urges into socially acceptable behavior. Okay? So, those are the 10 psychological defense mechanisms. So, our 6 psychologists we will focus on the Canadian psychologist, no, which is Albert Bandura. And he proposed the social cognitive theory. And aside from that, no, according to him, the self is both proactive and agented. He believed that behavioral modification is possible. So according to Bandura, humans are producers of their life circumstance, not just products of them. No, producers daw, not just a products. Bakit? No, kasi nga sabi ni Bandura, humans are capable of behavioral modifications. No, hindi tayo produkto lang ng pangyayari sa paligid natin. No, we have free will. We can react, we can make changes in our actions, and we can make decisions for ourselves. So, si Albert Bandura is a Stanford University psychologist. And according to social cognitive theory, no, ang mga tao daw ay agents or originators of experience. No, hindi lang tayo basta-basta nagre-react sa experience, but we are the originators of experience. Sabi niya, no, may kakayahan tayo to act and make things happen. And to support his claim, he proposed four agentic perspectives. So first, no, sabi ni Bandura, people are capable of doing things intentionally. So what does this mean? No, we can behave with a purpose. Lahat ng ginagawa natin may dahilan. No, hindi tayo gumagawa ng kahit anong bagay na walang purpose in life. So for example, no, nag-aral ka kagabi, no, bakit? Bakit ka nag-aral? Kasi may quiz or may exam ka. No, another example, no, nag-wave ka ng hi sa messenger. Pero kunyari napindot mo lang. Pero may purpose. No, gusto mo lang magparamdam, no, sa crush mo. So everything that we do has a purpose. So that is intentionally. The second agentic perspective, no, according to Bandura, is forethought. So ano yung forethought? Sabi niya, now we as humans are capable of anticipating outcomes. So what does this mean? No, hindi dahil manghuhula tayo, no, pero we can anticipate outcomes because we can observe. No, example, no, lumabas ka ng bahay. Tapos nakita mo sa labas, no, madilim, no, nagdagom, no, maitim ang langit. So what would you think? No, so iisipin mo na uulan siguro later. No, because because you are expecting rain, so ano yung gagawin mo? No, syempre you will bring your umbrella kasi nga you can expect outcomes. No, we are capable of expecting outcomes. So that is forethought. So the third one, no, is self-reactiveness. Now dito Bandura points out that we can react to certain situations, no, and be motivated to regulate our actions. So example, no, napansin mo na you are gaining weight, no? Parang tumataba ka. So how would you react? Now you would react by regulating your actions. Now how? No, you will diet. No, you will eat healthy foods, no? And aside from that, no, you will exercise. So the point is that we can react, no, to certain situations, and then we can be motivated to regulate our actions. So that is self-reactiveness. And lastly, no, is self-reflectiveness. So this means, no, that we are capable of reflecting our actions. Example, no, pwede natin isipin kung tama ba yung ginawa natin. Okay lang ba ang ginawa ni ganito, ni ganyan. No? So, for example, no, nag-joke ang teacher mo. No? Tapos, sa sobrang funny ng joke niya is nahampas mo ang prof mo, ang teacher mo. No? Then, no, makaisip ka, no, you can reflect, no, hala, tama ba yung ginawa ko? Na hinampas ko yung prof ko. Parang mali yata. Okay? So, after reflecting to your actions, no, you can do the much needed modification. No? So, di mo na siya gagawin next time. No? Or kaya yung gagawin mo is magsusorry ka sa teacher mo kasi hinampas mo siya. No? So, basically, no, with self-reflectiveness, we can reflect to our actions and behaviors and make needed modifications. And aside from the different agentic perspectives, Bandura also pointed out the importance of the social learning or learning through observation. So sabi niya, no, mahalaga ang role ng conscious thoughts, no, kasama na rin yung self-efficacy or the belief sa sarili natin kakayahan. So sabi pa nga ng character, no, na sa Kung Fu Panda, no, when you believe in yourself, everything is possible. No? Naniniwala ba kayo sa idea ng character ng Kung Fu Panda? And same kasi sila ng idea ni Albert Bandura. So there are 4 steps in observational learning. So these are attention, retention, motor reproduction, and motivation. First is attention. So, syempre, no, in order to learn, no, you need to pay attention. And when something is distracting your attention, no, kung gusto mo talagang matuto tapos may nagdi-distract sa'yo, syempre, it will have a negative impact on your observational learning. No? Also, pag ang model mo or yung ino-observe mo is interesting or bago sa paningin mo, no, bago sa'yo, mas malaki ang chance para i-focus mo or i-dedicate mo yung full attention mo towards learning. So, the second step is retention. So, retention is the ability to store information, and this is an important part in the process of learning. So, retention can be affected by a number of factors. Pero, yung ability to retain information and act on it after is the most important part of observational learning. So, okay, so you pay attention and you retain the information. So the next step, no, is actually performing the behavior that you observe. And that's what we call motor reproduction. No, sabi nga nila, no, practice makes perfect. So further practice of learned behavior leads to improved and advancement of skill. No, so if you are familiar, no, sa SB19, so they are a Filipino group, no, para silang boy band sa Philippines, and they were trained in Korea. So, ayun, sumikat sila, no, over time kasi magaling silang kumanta and magaling din silang sumayaw. So, they revealed that yung steps na sinasayaw nila, na pinoperform nila, ay practice daw nila 1,000 times. No? Imagine. And it makes sense, no, kasi practice, no, makes perfect. So finally, in order for observational learning to be successful, you have to be motivated to imitate the behavior that has been modeled. So syempre dapat gustuhin mong gawin siya, no? Dito pumapasok ang reinforcement and punishment. No, an example would be, no, bibili ka ng milk tea, no, sa suki store mo, no, yung binibilhan mo ng milk tea. Now, no, may bago silang pakulo. no, na kapag bibili ka ng milk tea gamit ang sarili mong container, ay makaka-discount ka ng 5%. So that would be your reinforcement. No, that would be rewarding to you. Kasi makaka-discount ka ng 5%. And yung punishment mo is, kailangan mo nga lang magdala ng container, no, which is mabigat sa bag mo and kailangan mo pang hugasan afterwards. No? So, reinforcement and punishment are important parts of motivation. No? Para maengganyo ka na i-observe at gawin yung mga na-observe mo na behavior. So, while experiencing these motivators can be highly effective. No? So, can observing others experience some type of reinforcement or punishment? So, what does this mean? So, ito ginagawa ko talaga ito last sem, no, sa mga students ko. Because I noticed no madaming late na pumasok sa class ko, no, sa first period. So, ano yung ginawa ko? So, lahat ng maagang pumasok, no, yung mga pumasok on time, binigyan ko ng +5. So, ano yung effect nito? So, napansin ng ibang students na wait lang, no, pag maaga kang pumasok, may +5 sa recitation. So, ano yung effect? No, they were also motivated to do the same. Naagahan nilang pumasok, no, because they know they will receive incentive or what we call reinforcement. And then that serve as their motivation. No? So, kung sila, no, pwede makareceive ng reinforcement, iisipin mo, ay, ako din. No, gagawin ko din yun so I can also receive the same reinforcement. No? So, maaga din silang pumasok sa class. So, according to Albert Bandura, belief does not necessarily ensure success, but self-disbelief assuredly spawns failure. So, ano yung gusto niyang sabihin? No? According sa kanya, no, ang paniniwala daw sa sarili, no, it doesn't mean that it would eventually lead to success. Siyempre, there are still other factors that we need to consider. Pero, if you don't believe in yourself, it would ensure failure. 'Di ba? Bakit? Kasi kung hindi ka naniniwala sa sarili mo, so you wouldn't even try. No, you would not even try to do things you want to do. So what's important is that you believe in yourself. So our last psychologist is Carl Jung. He believes that everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. No? Kakaiba din si Carl Jung, no? That yung mga bagay daw na we find irritating ay makaka-help, no, sa pag-intindi natin sa sarili natin. And he believed that the self is the central archetype of our personality. So what is archetype? So archetypes are universal, inborn models of people, behavior, or personalities that play a role in influencing human behavior. And Carl Jung, no, he was able to identify 5 major archetypes of personality. So, ano yung mga 5 archetypes na yon? So, first, no, we have persona. So, ano yung persona? It is our public personality. So, ito yung paano natin ipakita or ipakilala yung sarili natin to the world. So, yung persona comes from the Latin word, no, that literally translates to mask. No, kasi ito yung sinusuot natin, ito yung pinapakita natin sa mundo, sa ibang tao. Persona, no, represents all the different social masks that we wear, no, among various groups and situations, no? So, these are social roles. So, pagkasama ko ang mga friends ko, no, ganito yung mask na sinusuot ko. Jolly ako na tao. And then, kapag kasama ko naman yung friends ko, yung parents ko, nagiging mabait ako and masunurin. Because that's the mask you wear and your social role, no, in that particular situation. So the second personality archetype is what we call the shadow. So the shadow is a dark side or part of ourself that we dislike. No? Kasama nandito yung sex and other life instincts. Okay? So yung ibang mga bagay na gusto natin gawin pero alam natin na hindi pwede kasi alam natin na bawal. No? Kasama na dito yung mga bagay na unacceptable for the society at para na rin sa ating sarili. No? For example, you want to cheat. Pero alam mo yun, alam mo sa sarili mo na mali ang mag-cheat. So that's part of your shadow. Those are the things we don't want and we don't like about ourselves. And the third archetype is our anima. So anima is the female archetype or basically the feminine image in the male psyche. No? So for example sa anima, no, for example may mga lalaki, no? These are the female archetypes or the feminine side. So pansin niyo mga lalaki, no, minsan yung may ibang lalaki na mahinhin, no? Meaning they have an anima na archetype. Okay, that's their feminine side. While the animus, no, syempre if we have a female archetype, meron din tayong male archetype. And this is what we call animus. So ano yung animus? So this is our male archetype or the male image in the female psyche. So according to Carl Jung, no, anima and animus represent the true self, no, rather than the image that we want to present to others. So ano tong animus, no? For example, mga girls na athletics. No, this is the male side of a girl, no, being very aggressive, no, and have a male archetype. Kasi 'di ba compared to our persona, kung saan yung social image natin, yun yung gusto natin ipakita. No, yun namang shadow natin, yun yung dark side natin na ayaw natin ipakita. So ito naman yung animus and anima, ito naman yung true self natin. So since we are talking about the self, so self is actually the last of the 5 personality archetypes. At yung self is the central archetype of personality. No, it represents the wholeness. So pinagsama-sama na yung apat, no, the first 4 archetypes. So naging self. And aside from the 5 major personality archetype, Carl Jung also identified 7 more personal archetypes. So what are these? So we have the father, the mother, the child, the wise old man, the hero, the maiden, and the trickster. So ano-ano sila? So yung father, no, ito yung may authoritative na figure. No, ito yung powerful, no? On the other hand, no, it is ang mother, no, we also have the mother which is nurturing or comforting na archetype. No, the third we have the child. So this is longing for innocence. No? The wise old man is guidance, knowledge, and wisdom. The hero about champion, defender, or rescuer na archetype. No, maiden is about innocence, desire, and purity. No, and the trickster is about deceiving, no, lying, and being the troublemaker. So to review, no, makikita ninyo dyan sa image yung different kinds of archetype. So we have the persona, no, dito sa may lower right. And may mask because this is our social personality. No, ito yung pinapakita natin sa mundo, sa world. And then we have the shadow, which is our dark personality. Yung mga bagay na ayaw natin about ourselves. Negative things about ourselves, no, negative behavior. Then we have the anima and animus, which is a feminine and male archetypes, no. So and of course, no, the last, no, we have the self, which represents the wholeness. So that ends our um lesson 4, no, for psychological perspective. So I hope you have learned something from our lesson.